Welcome to Lesson 3 of Culinary Arts 1. My name is Chef Frank Toniguzzo, and today we'll be making soups. All right, we're going to make a lovely minestrone soup. It's basically an Italian vegetable soup. All right, this one has pancetta in it, or the Italian variation of our bacon. All right, except it's not smoked. You'll see that you can leave it out, and it's a lovely vegetable soup on its own. We're using chicken stock, but you can use vegetable stock and make it completely vegetarian. The other soup I'm going to make is a cream of mushroom soup. Now, the way I'm making this cream of mushroom soup, substitute the word mushroom for cauliflower, for broccoli, for asparagus. This is the way you make a nice mushroom soup, and you'll see one of the ingredients in there, about 5 down on the ingredient list, is something called a chicken veloute. What a chicken veloute is thickened chicken stock. You'll see there's also fish veloute, a fish thickened fish stock. All right, you'll see that the other one is a brown sauce, or what we call the Espagnole sauce. Then there's hollandaise sauce. You're going to see how that one's made in a couple of weeks in time. You'll also see tomato sauce. These are what we call the 5 mother sauces, or leading sauces. 2 words, one meaning. It's because you have to make those first before you make something else. For argument's sake, the mushroom soup, first we make a veloute, and then we make the mushroom soup. So that's what we're going to do today. So we'll get started doing all the prep work first. Now, here's the ingredients for the minestrone soup. There's quite a few things in there. You'll see that if you start at the very northern end of Italy and travel your way down to Sicily, the furthest part, you'll see that each town, each region has their own variation of a minestrone soup. And of course, theirs is the proper one. Everybody else's is just a soup. All right, so put what you want in it. It's still a lovely soup. Now, for ours today, we have a few things. I have some Swiss chard. All right, and what I did with the Swiss chard was wash it, and then I cut off the stem here. It's almost like celery. And just split it down the middle. And I'm just going to chop this up. Now, the recipe says diced. What is the dice? What you have to think of, we're making a soup. So if you have a soup spoon, you want to dig into that soup and get a variety of colors and flavors. So you don't want it too big. So let's say today our variation of soup is going to be about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. So once you set that, everything else is cut to that. All right, and again, no matter what I cut, as in previous lessons, down and forward, down and forward. All right, now with the Swiss chard itself, what I'm going to do is just cut it about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. This wilts a lot. All right, so we have that. And what I'm going to do with the sorry, you can use spinach, that's why it's on my mind. But with the Swiss chard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in just before we serve it. All right, if you put it in too early, you'll see that it tends to turn black. This will cook almost instantly. So just before I say the soup is ready, we put it in, stir it around, and it's cooked. All right? Another thing I have today is I have cooked Romano beans. All right, you can use any type of beans you like for this. Again, you can use the canned ones or use the ones that you cook yourself, just like we did with the Tuscan bean salad. I have a bit of tomato paste. All right, this gives it color and flavor, obviously. And I have some really nice tomatoes here. These are the San Marzano. These are lovely tomatoes. You'll see that they're full of flavor, and we'll use those. All right. Now, I have some potato. Now, my potato's in water simply because if I just keep it on the tray with the other things, it will oxidize. So after you cut it up, put it in there. All right, and again, let's keep on our theme of about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. You'll see that if you didn't want to cloudy up your soup, like this is going to be a bit cloudy because potato has starch in it. So if you want to keep it a clear soup, stay away from starchy vegetables like potatoes and squash and that. But to be honest, this goes very nicely in there, so we have that. I pureed my garlic with my microplaner, just like we did in previous lessons. All right, and there you go. And now with the onion, what we're going to do here is, again, 1/4 inch. Again, there's my root. Just cut it like that. Okay, now with the other vegetables, you can stack them all together. With the onion, I'm going to give it a bit of a head start on its own, simply because it is a harsh tasting vegetable. So I want to give it a bit of its own. Zucchini, cut it into pieces like that, stand it up. Okay, down like that, hold it. And that cutting guide that was in lesson number 2, that would be a batonette, or like a French fry, a shoestring French fry. All right, so that goes on the tray. You see, what I'm going to do is leave everything on the tray, so when I'm at the stove, I just take it off of the tray as I need it. Now, the leek, remember, cut it in half, give it a good rinse. Now, I've already cut up, obviously, some of the vegetables, or like the other half of the leek in that, just so I don't bore you with the cutting and cutting and cutting. Right now, the carrot, I like to cut them in pieces like this, stand them up again, and just glide through them like that, okay? And the celery, again, instead of trying to manage something like this, cut it in half first. Like that. All right, now our basil and our parsley, just chop up like we did for the Tuscan bean salad, okay, into a little chiffonade, as they call it. And I've also got some Parmesan cheese here. Now, this goes on as you serve the soup. Don't put it in your soup per se, because the heat will melt it into a big clump. All right, so pass it around the table with a little spoon and people put it on themselves. What you can do for a bit more interesting concept is take your cheese, take your herbs, put it in a food processor or a blender with a bit of olive oil, and you make a pesto. And what you do is you serve the pesto on top of the minestrone soup, just to, again, for a bit of added flavor. All right, and the last thing, the pancetta or pancetta. All right, now, again, this is a cured pork belly, just like our bacon is, except it's not smoked. It does add some nice flavor to it. If you like, you can use, you know, if you don't want to use pork, you'll see that most supermarkets in the deli section will sell fully cooked smoked turkey thighs or drumsticks. Plop those into the soup to get that nice smoky flavor, and then afterwards just rip the meat apart and put it back into your soup. So that's it. All the prep work for the minestrone. And again, you do all this, everything, before you start to cook, so you're not running around. All right, so I'm just going to put that to the side. Now, these are the ingredients for the mushroom soup. All right, you'll see that obviously I have some mushrooms here, and I've already gave them a wash, and we just slice them up. All right, now this recipe here, it's not necessary, but they gave them to me, so I'm going to use them. I've got some porcini mushrooms here. Lovely, okay, lovely, very lovely mushroom. Now, they come dry like this one here, and what you have to do is soak them for about half hour in water to rehydrate them. Now, the beauty of this is that I'm feeling the bottom of the bowl, and I don't have any grit. Sometimes the dehydrated mushrooms do have some grit. This one doesn't. So, bonus, I can use all that nice juice now, all right, for mushroom flavor. Have some onions. I have our herbs that are in there, a bit of thyme and that. I've got a bit of 35% cream. 35% cream is the only cream that you can simmer without worrying about it breaking up. Like if you tried to boil milk, it'll break up in that. All right, so we have some of that. Now, at the bottom of the recipe, it says about a crouton. All right, heart-shaped crouton to be exact. I'm going to show you how we make them. I just cut these into like Caesar salad croutons. All right, and I'm just going to fry them up in a bit of butter. But to make a heart-shaped crouton, it's not that hard. All right, yeah, like that. Now, what you do first is just cut on an angle like that. And I'm going to go like that and cut on another angle like that. So you see it's almost 45, straight 45. And there's our heart shape. Okay, by just making a little notch in there and just cleaning up the edges a bit, there's your heart shape, and you just fry those off. Okay, I'm just going to make one more. I'll show you afterwards. They are quite nice. These are very classical. This is what, I'm just going to leave that one like that. That's what we call a teardrop. Now, the idea here is that, you know, with stews and soups, you sort of dip your crouton in and eat off of it. So it's almost like a little soup spoon. So I have all the prep work I need for both soups and that. I need a bit of flour for my velouté, which I have. I have hot chicken stock on the stove for everything. And I have a bit of butter, so we can start our cooking process. So now we're at the stove. We're going to make our soups now. Usually I do use a pot like this one here that I have my chicken stock in, but just so visually you see it better, I'm using the lower, wider ones. So I've got a bit of olive oil in here. You don't need much, maybe a teaspoon, all right, because you don't want a greasy spoon, a greasy soup. When it's in a bowl, it's a big turnoff for me when I see too much oil everywhere. So you'll see that we will take this out in a minute. So I have my cut up pancetta, and we'll put that in. Again, you hear that nice sizzle. That's what you want. And I'm just going to cook this until it's about medium rare. All right, where the, let's call it that light raw color gets cooked. All right, and then we can start cooking. Now, if you don't want to use pancetta, put a bit more oil in, and you're going to start off at the onions. See, this is already starting to smell nice. And you see that the color has changed, so now we can throw in our onions. All right, and don't worry if a few more of the vegetables go in there with the onions. It's not going to ruin anything. All right, now anytime a recipe says cook the onions and the garlic, always hesitate with the garlic. You see how small the garlic is. If you put it in with the onions at the beginning, it'll surely burn on you and have a bitter taste. One thing is when you're moving stuff around, don't just go like this. Make sure you sweep the bottom. Make sure nothing is sticking. Right, so I'm just going to cook this for about a minute. And I'm going to add my garlic. Now, a good rule of thumb on garlic, once you smell it, it's cooked. All right? I mean, putting it in the pan, obviously. Once you get that aroma of the garlic, it's a good indication that it's cooked when it's that small. Okay, just like that. I'm starting to get just a hint of color to the onion. That's all I want. Throw in your garlic. Move it around. And see, I start to smell that garlic already. So that means it's cooked, so we can go to the next step. Now, in your book, it says, I'm going to take about a tablespoon of tomato paste. It says cook the tomato paste until it's rusty. All right, what that means is it takes on almost an orange appearance instead of a deep red. What that does is, by cooking it beforehand a bit like we are, it mellows out the acidity that's in tomato paste. If you ever put a spoonful of tomato paste in your mouth, I don't recommend it, but it's both acidic and sweet at the same time. By doing this, we cook it out also. You'll see that if you put the tomato paste in after you put the liquids in, it has a tendency of lumping up and not wanting to play with the other ingredients. So see, it's getting that rusty color now. So now we can add in all the other vegetables, dry vegetables. Okay, just like that. Now, I'm on high heat. I'm just turning it down a bit. Now with these, you're not really going to sweat them because there's so many in there. But what we want to do is make them nice and warm, and we want to blend in with that tomato paste. Okay, again, sweep the bottom so nothing sticks and burns. Okay, and make sure you get the sides of your pan. All right, so that's nice like that. Now, I'm going to add my chopped up tomatoes. I'm going to add my beans. And I'm going to add my chicken stock. Okay, and this is the one, remember when we first came together, lesson number 1? The chicken stock, I kept it. Look at that, nice and clear. Okay, I want about 3 liters in there. Well, 2.5 is fine. So what I do not have in here yet is obviously the cheese is going to be for the final putting it on the table. The Swiss chard is going to be there just before I finish. We can add the herbs, okay? And if you like, keep a bit afterwards to sprinkle on top. So the only ingredient I don't have in there right now is the potato. I want to wait till this simmers a bit before I include it, simply because if I put it in now, potato is so starchy it'll want to sit at the bottom and burn if you don't babysit it all the time. Now you'll see that when this comes up to a boil, there may be a bit of scum coming off of it. That's from the fat from the pancetta, the olive oil, and also you'll see that tomato, the tomato paste and the whole tomatoes have a bit of protein in it that comes to the top. Some people just stir it in and some people take it out. I'm just going to put that to the side over here. Let it simmer there. Now I'm going to make the chicken veloute for the mushroom soup. I want to make that first. Now, I'm going to make about a ½ liter of veloute. You don't need much. You'll see a good rule of thumb is 1/2 inch of butter. Put it in there and melt it, but don't let it scorch. Okay, just melt it till it's ready. Now, for for ½ liter of the liquid, okay, in this case here I'm using the chicken stock, I need that 1/2 inch of butter and I need 2 good tablespoons of flour, okay? So there's my flour, all-purpose flour. And the idea is that we mix this together, and what it's called is a roux, R-O-U-X. What that is you see if you just try and put flour into the stock to make it thicker, the flour lumps up together and doesn't want to play with the other ingredients, and it doesn't thicken. But it's what in food theory we call it gelatinization. What happens is that the butter, or any fat for that matter, you cook it a bit with the flour, and what it does is open up the flour so that it starts to suck in stuff. If you don't gelatinize the flour, it stays stiff and it won't let anything in. Now, you can use a whisk or you can use a spoon. I'm going to use a spoon. It's not that much. And again, just barely melt the butter. Now, a rule of thumb is that flour does not like heat. You'll see it'll want to stay down at the bottom and burn on you. So, one thing you do first is turn it down to the lowest setting you can. All right, my butter is done. So, 2 tablespoons of flour. And you're going to make this so it resembles Play-Doh almost. Okay, just give me a sec here. Okay, you see how it sort of rolls off there? Don't make a mess like I just did. I'll clean that up after. Okay, but see how it's a Play-Doh. Now, just cook it for about a minute just to take that raw flour taste out. So this is the basis for our chicken veloute. Now, with the minestrone soup, you'll see that you start to get a bit of a scum on top there. I'm just going to take a ladle and a pan and just skim some of that protein off. Again, some people don't, but I do. Okay, just like that. Just to make it nicer, that's all. All right, so back to our veloute here. Now, it says that you have to let one of them get cool, like cool the roux. It actually means that they still have to be hot, but one is a bit lower in temperature than the other one. Not cold, cold, but one's a bit warmer and one's a bit hotter. Sorry, one's a bit warmer and the other one is just a bit cooler than that. But the whole key here now is I put in a ladle. Don't put any more in until this is fully mixed. Okay? And you'll see that, just be patient. You'll see it doesn't look that nice, but just keep working it. And what it'll look like at first, okay, so that's what exactly it looks like a thick oatmeal. All right, that's what it's supposed to look like. We'll put in another ladle. I'm just going to put another half ladle. Now, if you want, like I said, you can use a whisk, and it does make the process easier. All right, see the firmer you whisk it, see now, it almost looks like mashed potato. That's exactly what you want. I'm just going to stop that for a sec, and I'm just going to skim a bit more of my minestrone soup. Okay, so there, I got most of this scum. Now that it's simmering, as you see my minestrone soup is simmering, I'm going to add the potatoes, but first I have to drain them. All right, that's my potatoes from my minestrone soup. And just let that simmer for about 10 minutes now, and then we adjust the seasonings. Back to our veloute. Now you'll see the recipe in the book calls for seasoning in a spice bag for veloute. I'm not going to do that simply because this is part of the mushroom soup. Okay? But if I was just making veloute as a base, like this could be a cream sauce. I add a bit of cream to it, maybe fry off some mushrooms, put it in, you got a nice mushroom cream sauce for chicken, and it's got a back taste of chicken to it. Okay, so you see now, we've got a nice thick sauce. I think just 2 more of these and then we're done with our veloute. Okay, now when you do cook it out, it says simmer it for 20 minutes. I'm just going to put it on the back and on very low heat. You'll see that if you let it simmer like my minestrone soup is simmering beside it, it tends to burn on you because that flour wants to go down right to the bottom. Don't let it go down to the bottom. Okay? And you'll see that if it says, like if you followed the measurements and it's not thickening up, try turning up your heat just a bit, and that usually does it. Okay, what I'm doing with the spoon is getting the corners where the side meets the bottom because the whisk doesn't go there. Okay, so that there, I'm just going to put at the back and let it gently cook so that it doesn't have that raw taste to it. I'm going to work on the mushroom soup now, and for that, I need just a bit of butter. Okay, yes, you can use oil. Okay, and just while that's melting, I'm going to skim my minestrone soup a bit. See, once all the hard work of cutting and chopping and that is done, the final assembly goes quite quickly. Okay, and that's going to be a nice hearty soup. So, there's my onions in my mushroom soup there. You'll see that with this mushroom soup, think of mushrooms like bananas. You know, if you go to the store and you want to eat bananas that day, you're going to buy bananas that have that solid yellow color with maybe some black or brown spots on it, because you know that underneath the skin, the banana is nice and ripe and tastes like a banana. You're going to leave or avoid the green skin colored bananas because you know they're not developed yet. think of mushrooms the same way. Those really bright mushrooms that, you know, are white as white and that, they're the most expensive ones. Ask any chef what you want is what, those are called number ones because they're number one in quality. What you want are the number twos. Those are the ones usually on a Monday morning at the supermarket. They're the ones that are half price because they didn't sell them and they're starting to turn a bit brown in that, okay? The quality they feel isn't there, but being a cook or a chef, you know that those are full of flavor, just like a banana with the yellow skin. Buy them up, slice them up, bag them up, throw them in the freezer. And you'll see anytime you want a nice mushroom soup like this, or even a mushroom sauce, you got them in the freezer and they're full of flavor. All right, so I sweated my onions. I don't want to brown this because it is a cream soup. There go in my regular mushrooms. I'm going to cook those down a bit. And we just want to wilt all this down. Again, same with this soup. I usually do it in another pan, a higher, narrower pan, but just so the visual effect of it you can see. Now, when I do this at home, I don't, or in the industry, we don't make a separate veloute. What we do now, after the mushrooms are cooked and the onions are cooked, we put the flour in here and make the roux in here with the mushrooms and onions, and then add our liquids, and you get your veloute / mushroom soup. Okay, so our mushrooms are wilted now. So now I'm going to add these soaked porcini mushrooms with the juice and all. And at this stage here, I'm going to add, my 35% cream. Okay, now I'm just going to let this simmer a bit before I add my veloute to it. A bit of the herbs. All right, now I haven't seasoned for salt and pepper yet. I will do that soon. I am going to taste my minestrone soup, see how that is. And that tastes very nice, except you can tell there's absolutely no salt or pepper in it. For the mushroom soup, I'm using white pepper because we're making a white soup, if you want, or a cream soup. And just a bit of salt to this. Now I am going to add maybe a ladle full of of our chicken stock. Now what I'm going to do with this, with the cream soup, I can't serve it like that, but I don't like that. What I'm going to do is, I have an immersion blender here. When everything is nice and soft, I'm going to put it in there and make this a pureed cream of mushroom soup. It just looks and tastes nicer. All right, so I just want this to come up to a boil, and then I'm just going to let it simmer a bit. And then we'll add our veloute. And that's starting to taste nice already. Our minestrone soup is almost ready. Okay, you notice that I'm not touching the spoon with this spoon so that I can keep using the same spoon. Just waiting for this to come up to a simmer. Again, just sweep, but make sure you sweep the bottom so you don't get any surprises afterwards. Okay, I'm just going to put these to the side there. Now, I'm going to do the croutons. Now, you'll see that, yes, I can just put them on a tray and toast them, but you'll see if you use a bit of butter and fry them first. I'm going to fry off those heart shape and the crouton and the teardrop crouton, and the rest of them I'll just toss in there. Just put a bit of pepper on there and bake them in the oven till they're toasty. You'll see very nice croutons. All right, meanwhile, this is my mushroom soup is simmering, so I'm going to add my veloute. Here you go. That's nice. And just melting the butter nicely. Now I just want to fry these first. You'll see traditionally what you do too is fry these in bacon fat. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's so delicious. Same with these. These are delicious. Okay, I just want to toast them a bit on both sides. And as I said, yes, I'm using butter, but if you want, just lay out the croutons on a tray, on a cookie tray, and pop them in the oven at 375. And look at them after about 5 minutes. You want them a light toasty color. And I just want to turn these guys over. By the way, just a little safety tip. If, you have your towel, you should always have your towel because you never know how hot the handle is going to get. But if it ever catches fire, don't panic. Don't go waving it around and causing more damage and getting little pieces of ashes anywhere. Drop it on the ground and step on it. That's all you have to do. Mind you, too, if you don't have shoes on, go put some shoes on. Okay, so I just wanted them toasty like that, or starting to. Put those in. And just move it around now. Shake them around so they pick up some of that butter. I'm very messy today, and I don't mean to be. But if you're messy, clean up right away. All right, so these are going to go in the oven. Just a bit of pepper in there. And there you go. Okay, these are going to be lovely croutons when we want them. Now, I've adjusted the seasoning. It's fine. With the minestrone soup, I'm about to serve it. So in goes the Swiss chard. And you'll see that it cooks instantly. Now, if you want it thinner, by all means, don't put as many vegetables or use more chicken stock or vegetable stock. But I like a nice hearty soup. All right, so that's ready. Those croutons that I had in the oven, I took them out, so there they are, nice and crisp. I have the cheese, and the cheese and the croutons can go in either one. Now, this is an immersion blender. I'm going to use that to puree my mushroom soup. Okay, when you're using this, don't lift it up too high or you're going to get hot liquid into your face. All right, now it takes a couple of minutes. And there you go. All right, nice pureed cream of mushroom. Now, we'll just serve these. The bowl's a bit too big, but that's okay. So we have our mushroom soup. We have the hearty minestrone soup. And again, if you want to put more meat in it or no meat, that's fine. We'll put a crouton in both of them. And sprinkle with a bit of Parmesan cheese on this one and a bit on that one also. Again, they're interchangeable. All right, so this is week 3 lesson in Culinary 1. Minestrone soup, which is a must for the student. If you'd like, make the mushroom soup, but again, it's just a demo item. Same with the croutons, but I encourage you to make all of it. It is very nice, especially, maybe not now, but as the cold weather comes back, these are real comfort foods here. My name is Chef Frank Tony Guzzo, and thank you for joining us today.